Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Ink and Paint. So glad to have you here with us tonight. My name is Jill Diffendahl. I am your host, and tonight I am very happy to be joined by the rest of my wonderful, lovely panel. We have Shannon.
Hello.
We have Amy.
Hi, everyone.
And we have Stephanie.
Hi, everybody.
So tonight, first of all, a little different. We are not live tonight. This is a pre-recorded episode due to some scheduling conflicts, not the least of which is that my lovely co-host, Ashley Jasmine, had her little baby girl last week. So obviously she's kind of got some stuff going on that she can't be here on the show. So congratulations to Ashley and her husband on their new little baby. Her name is Audrey. And if you got to watch our Disney home decor episode, you got to see a little tour of the beautiful Peter Pan themed nursery that they built for Audrey. So now she gets to be home in her new nursery, and we're all very happy for her. So much love going out to you and your family, Ashley, and we'll see you back on Ink and Paint very soon. But so tonight our topic is, how do you do the parks? So what does a typical park day look like? What does a park trip look like for you? And I wanted to pull in a bunch of different perspectives of me, for example. I'm a local. We have some non-locals on the panel as well. We have people with kids. We have people without kids, talking about like, what does that look like for you? How has maybe it changed a little bit over the years? And what are kind of your priorities so that you get to do all the things you want to do and yet you still have a good time in the parks. So let's start with kind of where a typical park day starts, which is rope drop. And show of hands, who typically rope drops the parks? Oh, nobody. Wow. Okay. So yeah, we used to, like when I was younger, it's funny, when we used to go to Disney before Jason had kids and it was kind of our nuclear family, Jason basically kind of made us rope drop every day. And especially those were back in the days of like paper fast passes, when you would do like the Toy Story Mania run to go get the Toy Story Mania fast passes and things like that. Like rope drop was a big part of the day for us. But anymore, like I rarely roll into the parks before like, it's at least like 9-10 o'clock, depending on opening time, that I go in. I remember one time recently, I rolled into Hollywood Studios and it was like noon, and the guy at the textiles was like, "Hey, where have you been all day so far?" And I'm like, "Well, my boarding group just got called." So I showed up once my boarding group got called. But so like, where does your park day start? I'll start with Amy. What gets you to the parks? Do you go in the morning? Like, what does that look like?
Well, it's not really my choice. It's dictated by my significant other, who will not get there early. He does not want to. Now, when I was younger, I used to go first thing in the morning and take a break in the middle of the day, but he will not do that. He's on vacation and he wants to be on vacation. So last time we went, which was before all the closures, they had, it feels like it's been 100 years since that happened. What was that called? The Midday Pass. They had a pass that you could buy that you couldn't go into the park before noon or 1. And it was a special promotion that I don't ever remember them having this before. But I had an annual pass and I got him that because I didn't really see the point in getting him one that, he could go in at 9 a.m. if he was never going to do that. So that worked for us really well. I mean, normally we would probably go around 11 or 12. But with that pass, I think it was 1 p.m. that we couldn't go in before. And that worked out okay. And then normally it would be, and all this has changed now, but normally it would all be geared around what I got, ahead of time for fast passes and what I got ahead of time for restaurant reservations. And that's how we would plan what we were going to do. But I don't even know what we would do now. Like, I don't know.
it's definitely so different to not have all of those fast passes and stuff to plan around. But I actually love that idea. I don't remember the like 1 o'clock park pass. The only thing I remember was like the Epcot after 4. But I feel like
It
I
was
can get behind the one
midday
o'clock.
magic. It was midday magic. It was
Okay.
only offered like I don't remember them offering it before this. It was we went last, not last. Oh my, see, this is pandemic brain. We went
Right.
November of well, it was November of 2019, but to me that's last year because we like skipped a year. So
Mhm.
it was November of 2019 and then everything closed in March of 2020. So it wasn't, you know, that long before that happened. But I don't remember them ever offering this before, and I don't know that they ever offered it. Like, they're obviously
Yeah, they
not doing
definitely
it
haven't
now.
offered it
But
post pandemic, but
it was like half the price, and only one of us, me, would have an annual pass because you really only needed one person with the annual pass to get all the perks for it. So
mhm.
then we would get him, the cheaper thing, and that was a really good option. But
That's
we
cool.
we don't go early anyway. I mean, I did go to Epcot one day on my own because I wanted to get the coasters for Food and Wine, and you had to
I
go
remember.
3 times or 4 times or whatever it
Yeah, it was
was.
four
Yeah.
So
times.
I went in Skyliner just to get the entry and the exit, and then went back to the hotel.
I remember we did that. We were going to Horror Nights, and so me and two of my friends pulled up to Epcot, ran in, literally tapped in, turned around, walked right back out, went back to the car, and got back in the car and drove to Universal to go to Horror Nights because we were just tapping in because you had to tap in 4 times to get the coasters. I totally remember that.
Yeah.
All right, Shannon, how about you? What does your park day look like?
Pretty lackadaisical. However, I will say I did rope drop for the first time in a very, very long time during August of 2020. I had to take advantage of the dead park, Ghost Town. It was incredible. I have pictures on my phone I got on every ride. And to me, that experience will last for several years. Like I've
It was
got it
so
out of my
good.
system. It was so good. So now I typically travel with a group of adults now. And so we all need our coffee in the morning, slow to wake up. Not in a rush to get anywhere. So we kind of, we'll go to the park same as you, Jill, like 9, 10 o'clock, maybe go on a few rides, have a pretzel or a snack, and then go to the pool. I mean, we go to Disney mostly for the pool and for lounging and for dining. So we're less park people, ride people, more lounging and chilling and just enjoying ourselves.
I have literally at times gone to Animal Kingdom for lunch. Like
You
I
know,
went to Nomad, I had a drink and like the Togoroshi tuna bowl, and then I left the park because and I feel
I
spoiled.
was
I'm
actually going to
spoiled being a local
say,
to do that.
yeah, Animal Kingdom would be the one park that I do try and get on as early a bus as possible because I go in, do my few things that I like, and get out. However, I do one of these days want to plan a full day Animal Kingdom day. I never dedicate a full day, mostly because it's the hottest park and we all know it.
Yeah, so very true. All right, and I saved Stephanie for last because Stephanie is the one on the panel with kids. So what does that look like for you?
So growing up, I had two younger brothers, but as teenagers, we would rope drop. We would go straight for the roller coasters. We'd
Mhm.
bypass all the little dark rides that I hold dear to my heart now, but at the
Yeah.
time I thought were little kiddie things. And yes, we would take a break in the middle of the day, possibly go back to the hotel, and then come back late at night. But now with kids, and again, it just depends on your children, but my children sleep in and we are better at night. And so it has changed the way that we do things. You know, when my husband and I go, just the two of us, we might spend, most time in the hotels or go to resort hop and go to the different restaurants. But at the parks, Jill, can you?
It's a little
Did we
laggy.
lose you a little bit?
Sorry, did you hear? Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm lagging.
No, yeah, you
You're
resort
good.
hop. You might resort hop.
Yeah, so we might resort hop and we might spend more time going to different restaurants and pools like you're talking about. And once we became
Mhm.
DVC members, we did that kind of thing as well. But with the kids, it's hard to get everybody out the door in the morning. And so, yeah, we're getting there probably around the same time as you, 9, 10 o'clock. We're getting breakfast first. We're going to Sleepy Hollow and getting our Nutella waffles. My daughter loves that. And then we're hitting, the major rides for the most part. But I will say, it used to be our tradition was to go to Pirates or to Haunted Mansion was always our growing up. That was one of the two that we started with at the park. And now it's Splash Mountain. So we go straight to Splash and then we do the wash and dry cycle. We do that and then Big Thunder right after. So
Nice, nice. Yeah, it's interesting. Like, I don't. There are a handful of rides. Like if I go to Animal Kingdom in the morning, I definitely hit Safari first because I feel like the earlier in the day you do Safari, the better it's going to be. You don't want to do Safari at like 2 o'clock in the afternoon in the blazing heat of day.
so hot.
But like there aren't a lot of rides that I kind of beeline for in a park because I'm not getting there at rope drop. So chances are the lines aren't going to be great for anything. So that's why I tend to go in and do like the small world, or I mean Mansion and Pirates these days don't have as long a wait, obviously, when you've got things like Splash and Mine Train kind of sucking up all the crowd. So or I'll do People Mover, or I'll do Carousel of Project. I always say Carousel of Products now. Carousel of Progress.
Plugging it.
I know, right? You have to. It's WDWNT. Carousel of Products for all
Which
of
came
your
first?
Disney t-shirt needs. But yeah, it used to be like there were sort of the e-tickets, and you would beeline for an e-ticket when you hit the park, and now like that's just not. And I think some of it's because I'm a local, and so I can kind of go back and do it whenever. But really, I think more of it is just the fact that like I've been on the rides enough, so I don't feel like I'm missing out on anything if I don't get to do an e-ticket. But at the same time, like I want to be able to enjoy my day in the park, and so I go and do things that I like that just have shorter waits. Like like I said, I'll go jump on People Mover, or if I'm at Epcot, like Living with the Land, even though it's down for the last few days, is absolutely one of my favorites because it's chill and it makes me like it's so nostalgic for me, and that's kind of what I'm into when I go to the parks these days, is just having a chill time where I can like soak in what I love about being in the parks. But I don't know, are there any must do rides for you guys? Like what's kind of, if you're on a trip to the parks, especially
I
since
think I
you guys all have
agree.
to travel to get here, what's the thing that like you have to do on a trip to Disney?
I think I agree that even though I have to travel there, I mean, see, here's the thing, and I'm going to sound so spoiled right now. When I went to Disney in 2002, there were no lines because there was nobody there. So
Mm-hmm.
for me to have to wait, you could literally walk onto absolutely everything and you could get through Magic Kingdom in 3 hours, the entire thing. And that was like my first adult trip to Disney. And then previous to that, I had gone, this is going to sound terrible. I'd gone with my grandmother, and my grandmother figured out that if you're in a wheelchair, you don't have to wait in lines, at least
Yep.
back then. Now it's different. But back then, you just, if you were in a wheelchair, you just pulled up and bypassed everybody. There was no wait. So I never waited when I was with my grandmother. I know. And she didn't need a wheelchair. That's why this is bad. Like this, she should not have done that. Bless her soul. She's passed. But my grandmother figured out how to get around the system. So
She
did
was like
this
the original
strictly
park hack.
to skip lines. She was skipping lines like in 1982. Like this is just it's terrible. And now my significant other, Colin, he will not like it. Okay, I'll take it on this one. I used to love Primeval World. Don't ask me why, because it was ridiculous, and I knew it was ridiculous,
Oh.
but I called it a giggle coaster. Like it would just make me laugh the whole time I was on it. So I loved it. And we were at Animal, and it was a 40-minute wait. And I made him wait. And that was a huge mistake. I will never do that again, because we were in line behind a cheerleading squad that was cheering.
Is it like Pop Warner?
He wanted to kill somebody, and he's not a patient man. So
Uh,
it's just like, never again. So I know that we, like, if the line is longer than, I'm not even joking, 15, 20 minutes, it's not going to happen. So I don't now like wait without, the whole fast pass thing. I don't even know what's going to happen. But I guess the other thing is, I said this to Colin the other day, we don't really go to Disney for rides. So I don't know how that would impact us as much. Like Jill, I've been on all the rides. It's not like anything has really changed, or that if it has, it's that significant that I feel like I'll be missing something if I don't go on it. So for us, I don't know. I mean, aside from the fact that the fast passes were a good way to plan, and I'm a planner, that part is going to throw me off. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, I'm there for the experience of the parks, and that doesn't necessarily it's not dictated by rides, if that makes sense.
Yeah. No, well, and stay tuned, because we're going to talk a lot more about
Yeah,
Genie
I'm
and
trying
Genie
not
Plus.
to talk.
Yeah. I should have teased it in the beginning, so everyone would stay tuned until the end of the show, but we'll talk more about that after the break in a little bit.
I'm trying not to go there.
It's kind of hard not to. It's a big deal right now.
I know.
But how about you, Stephanie? Are there must-dos for you and your family?
There are must-dos at every park. And to be honest with you, since we're not local, we go for a week at a time, typically 6 to 7 days, solid days in the park, non-travel days. And we have to do everything that we can do, at least. And that's one of the reasons why we start in the very back left corner of the park, because as people come in, they tend to funnel into Fantasyland and get stuck in Fantasyland. So unless you really have to ride Peter Pan right when it opens, so it's not a 2-hour wait, then go for it. But we'll usually start at the back left corner and kind of make our way around that way, either into Adventureland or back through Frontierland. And we just kind of hit everything that we can. Like I said, I'm nostalgic. I have to do Carousel of Progress, have to do Pirates, have to do Haunted Mansion, It's a Small World, all of those. But I like the newer rides too. I really love it all. My husband, he has to max out on Buzz Lightyear. So that is, believe it or not, that's something he has to do. So we do that every time. And then, because there are some hacks for that you can Google and totally max out your gun. Same on Toy Story Mania. He has to max that out too. So we've got to get those.
I want to ride Buzz with you guys and learn all the hacks, because Jason taught me a couple of them recently. I know like 3/4 of them for Toy Story, and I know like 2 or 3 of them for Buzz, but I want to learn all of them.
Totally. Bring it on. We'll have you come.
That's awesome. How about you, Shannon? Do you have must-dos?
Yeah. So for our family, the number one thing that we always had to do on the first day was the railroad. We always had to take one loop before we did anything else. So it's been very devastating for us.
Yeah.
And I believe I talked about this, I think on Park Center recently, but very sad. And we can't wait for that to come back. Now, I am very disappointed in myself before everyone else gets disappointed in me. I hated the movie Avatar so much that I refused to even go to that land for years. And it wasn't until COVID that I took advantage of that short line and I went on Flight of Passage, and my life changed forever. That ride is not overrated. And that is the one thing that will be on my to-do list when I go again in a few months. It blows my mind, but never did I expect anyone in this panel to say that their must-do is Primeval Whirl. My mind is still blown by that.
was a
My spine hurts thinking about it.
I know, right?
I never, let me just be clear. I didn't go to Animal Kingdom or Disney and go, I must do Primeval Whirl. But when I see it, I go, I love that ride. Now, of course, you can't. But it was more like premeditated. It was just, you see it, you go, oh, it's only a 40-minute wait. But no,
I just want to
I didn't much. I have skipped it before when it was too long.
I just want to pause for a moment here and expound upon the glory that is the concept of the giggle coaster, right? Because, like, to me as an adult now, like when I was a kid, I was a coaster fiend. I would make my dad go on all of these, like, the biggest, the tallest, the suspended, the whatever coasters in any theme park we went to. And I loved them. And now I'm like, I went on Velocicoaster once and I literally was like so stiff from holding on that I couldn't unbend my elbows afterwards because I was so terrified. I thought I was going to die on Rip Ride Rocket and I will never ride it again. But I will wait in line for 45 minutes to go on Slinky Dog because that is such a giggle coaster to me. And like, it's just so fun. It's so like, it's not like a thrill coaster, it's not whatever, but like as an adult now, that is absolutely like I had the choice between am I gonna go on Runaway Railway or Slinky Dog before the park closes, and I was like, duh, I'm doing Slinky Dog because it's just so fun to me. And like Mine Train is like that for me. I love Hagrid's is like my favorite thing, like my favorite coaster. But I was so excited when you said the words giggle coaster because to me that's so much what that is, and it's such a like a part of what I love about doing the parks these days. But so we've kind of talked about what our mornings look like, what our days sort of look like. So coming to the end of the night, who here is like fireworks are a must do?
Disney Springs is a must do for my nights.
Interesting. All right.
Shopping.
So we're going to start with that, Shannon, because I am like, and is this like an every night thing or is this like you have to do it one night, but then other nights you do other things?
I'll try to do it every night that I'm not too tired. And, it's been a bummer because Disney Springs was closing relatively earlier over the last year or two. So I'm definitely looking forward to the later nights. But that's the thing, we love dinners. Dinners are a huge part of our trip. And so therefore, we typically miss the fireworks. And for a while, it had been the same shows. Sadly, I didn't really get to see Epcot Forever. I saw it from Topolino's Terrace again. I was at dinner.
Don't be so sad about that.
I know. I've heard. Actually, though, California Grill, that was always a favorite. We always time that with the fireworks. That would be the only thing. But for me, wrapping a night up, walking around Disney Springs and doing our shopping, that's my end of day wind down fun.
Very nice, very nice. Yeah, I have become a huge fan of nights at Disney Springs. Polite Pig, if you're a bourbon fan, or Jack Lindsay's are like the two go-tos. And yeah, I totally sympathize. I'm so glad that Springs is open a smidge later now some of the time, because I remember one time we walked into Jack Lindsay's and they were like, it's 9:45, it's last call. I'm like, do you understand how how that is not a sentence that should make sense in any universe? But I saw you, Stephanie, nodding for the fireworks. What is your fireworks plan with your group?
Listen, I like a deal. We have a lot of kids. We usually bring a large group of people. And so I like to get deals on hotel rooms and tickets and whatever else I can find. But I will pay for convenience. And so I'm one of the people that cause the problems, I'm sure, with the fireworks dessert parties. And so with kids, they get something to eat, they get a seat. I don't have to fight somebody. Now, I have been known to sit 2 hours on my rear in front of the Cinderella Castle so that I can get a primo spot, for fireworks. But I don't prefer to do that. I prefer to just pay the money to go and have some nice food and drink and have a spot to sit and watch the fireworks. But yes, we do in every single park. we try to catch the show. Even Epcot Forever, which I agree was just probably a waste of time and money, but I still saw it.
And that's fine. Like, we did fireworks party for the first night of Epcot Forever, but now with all the barges in World Showcase Lagoon and how much they've had to scale back the show because of the barges, it's a nightmare. But so, do you have a favorite of all? Like, is it Happily? Is it Fantasmic? There keep being little rumblings that Fantasmic might come back, and I'm like, I can't wait for that. I'm very excited.
I love Fantasmic.
My husband's number one is Fantasmic, must see, must do, and I really hope that it comes back for the 50th. I do not suggest doing the dessert party for that, but instead doing a dining package if they have that available again, because it got better. You get better seats with that.
You get better seats.
Yeah.
The dessert parties are all the way in the back, right? So you're not really getting a good view.
Not for Fantasmic. You go and you pick up a tray, and you go and sit in your area with your tray of
I didn't know
food
that.
and, yeah.
Yeah,
It's okay,
there's no
but
party.
It's not the best. Yeah.
That's weird. Yeah.
Yeah.
That reminds me of
I
when,
always
like,
intend to see fireworks, and then sometimes it happens. Sometimes. And I have, on occasion,
Like me.
I have paid for a dessert party that I didn't go to. And I actually checked in.
Really?
No.
And then I just hit a wall. Yeah,
you were like,
it
I
happened.
gotta go lay down.
One of the best
The
ones, if I
Frozen
could just
dessert
interject really
party.
quick. The Frozen was great. I agree with you, but the Star Wars one at
I
Hollywood
didn't
Studios.
go.
I missed the
Man,
Star
because you
Wars
get to
one.
meet the
That was-
characters. That's the cool part. And before, I don't know, a few years ago, they stopped doing this, but the Jawas were there. You got to trade with the Jawas, and you got to go see the character. It was pretty cool. Yeah,
That's cool.
I hope they bring that back.
Yeah, they did they would bring back some of those like rare characters for some of the after hours events. I remember we did one, I think, for Studios 30th, and they had the Ewoks and the Jawas out. They had like Clarabelle Cow. So like those are always fun for me to do those, like, and that's like, you know, if we're talking like post firework, what do you do? Like that for me, I really enjoy some of the after hours events, and like being in the park until 1:00 in the morning. Like it reminds me back of like the old, you know, late nights they used to do in the parks all the time, where you could be out until 1:00 in the morning, like riding Astro Orbiter for no good reason other than because there's no one else in the park and you could. But yeah, I miss that. Like that. Those were like the after hours events for me were like as close as you could get prior to, you know, when the park's reopening. And like you talked about, Shannon, that, you know, you had these periods where there for like the first few months where there was no one in the park. That's what those after hours events were like for me, that it was like, okay, you stay there and we could just go on Tower 4 times in a row. And it was, you know, like the old days where it was like, you're just in the park late and no one's there and you can ride whatever you want.
I've even gotten to the point where I've enjoyed, recently I spent a solid 2 hours just sitting on a bench on the top of the train station and just taking it all in and breathing and relaxing and just enjoying it. I get caught up, especially someone who's not local. Even though I've been 50 times, you know, I still get caught up in the needing to go here and here and here and here. And I'm really starting to slow down and appreciate it, and just soak it all in.
Very nice. All right, so I think we're coming up on time for a break. So instead of our regular commercial break, we're going to take you to some videos that our very own Miss Allison sent in of a completely different way to do the parks. So I wanted to show you guys these because get another perspective on how to do the parks, but also like to me, this was awesome because Allison basically gave us like an entire tour of Epcot in her videos as well. So let's start off with Miss Allison and how she sometimes does the parks.
So I know that some people do Disney or do the parks and they want to squeeze everything in, and if you're like me, I like to walk around very leisurely and take in my surroundings, except for 1 or 2 days out of the week when I take everything at a very, very quick pace. In fact, I actually will go to parks like Epcot, where I am right now, and I know exactly how long it takes to walk around World Showcase and go from the parking lot, make the loop around World Showcase and back again. It's about 2.5 miles or so. So I actually do Disney sometimes in a little bit of a different way. So I'm gonna get my exercise in today. So let's get started. Oh my God, look who's out in the wild. He's so cute. But I can't stop to say hi. I have to keep going. Hey, Pooh. Silly old bear. So I usually start in Canada first. I've just entered World Showcase. And I'm already sweating and I hate it. But I think we're making good time. Yeah, we're doing okay so far. But ask me again once I hit America. Hi, Belle. Who else we've got? It's Princess Jasmine. Hello, Princess. Here we are in America. Look who we've got.
From sea to shining sea, America is more than a land, it's a people, united by the pioneering spirit that built this country. Our hopes and our dreams move us forward toward a better tomorrow.
A nice treat. Should we go down? Well, we're at our halfway point. This is about when I where I start to question myself. Why am I doing this? You know what would be great to beat the heat right now? Gelato. That's not the point of doing this right now. If I get gelato, it just negates everything. So I'm just gonna keep going. Okay, that's it. I'm gonna pause at Norway. I'm gonna get myself some water. Whew. Let's go to the Kringla for some water. Oh, water. Cheers. Refreshing. Whew.
Thank you.
Hello, Elsa. Oh. Thank God I'm almost done. Oh. Still making really good time today though. What's interesting is that usually there's like a bottleneck around the certain food booths, but not this time. I mean, it kind of speaks to the lower crowd levels they were experiencing lately. But yeah, I didn't hit any bottlenecks, so that definitely affected my time. Well, I did it just under 35 minutes, and it's I don't know how many kilometers, maybe about a little over 3 kilometers that I just walked at 110 degrees. I'm gross, but I did it, and now I get to go home and pass out. I'll see you all another time, and that is one way that I do the parks.
So yay, thank you, Miss Allison, for sharing that with us today. I love that. There are definitely times where I feel like a day at the parks, like even just, especially being down here as a local now, if I look at my pedometer on my phone, it is very clear which days I was in the park and which days I was not, just by the sheer amount of steps I take. It's great. So being a local definitely gets you in a little bit extra exercise. But so now we've talked about how we normally do the parks. We're going to talk about that thing that everybody's talking about right now, which is Genie and Genie Plus and Lightning Lane and whatever other steaming pile of garbage they're coming up with, and how we think that is going to affect how we do the parks going forward, because they say it's coming this fall, and this fall is not that far away. So I'm gonna put Shannon in the hot seat to start.
Yeah, pulled my notes.
How you feel? Tell us how you really feel about the Genie.
I mean, I think once you get past the initial shock of Disney charging for Fast Pass, you have to look at the situation. And I can't, every time I see a poll on Twitter that asks, are you going to buy this or not? I have sat there and gone back and forth, yes, no, yes, no. And I still to this day don't think I can answer, but I think I can answer, and it's no. I think it's going to be for the people who are really coming once a year or once in, a lifetime maybe, and they need to get certain things done. The way I put it into perspective is I'm going to Universal for the first time since I was a kid. And Jill, you have got me so excited to go on all these rides. But because I am going just one day of my trip, I do plan on buying their, I believe it's Express Pass is what it's called. Mm-hmm. Yeah, because I want to get the most bang for my buck. I have one day to be there. I want to get as much stuff done as I can. I can't honestly see myself spending any money to get on a ride at Disney just because I've been there for so long. I'm assuming that Disney knows their audience, and to me it sounds like they expect more people to come to their parks that don't come as often. I'm not sure, but other things I have gripes with, the name, why Lightning? I think you should stick in the same IP, something similar to Aladdin and Genie. Lightning, to me, when I first heard it, I thought, what other theme park uses that? I live close to Six Flags. Six Flags uses the word Flash Pass or Flash Lane. Oh. And to me, and to me, that's pretty synonymous. I mean, so that doesn't make sense to me. And why are you going to go out of your way to change all that infrastructure, change the signs and everything? I get that you don't really want to associate Fast Pass with a paid service. Maybe someone sees it and says, wait, I thought Fast Pass was free. But I just think all of that is pretty wasteful. And at the end of the day, it's really hard to judge what's going to happen because at the end of the day, this app has to work.
Right.
And I think we can all take a guess as to how that's going to go. So I will reserve my judgments until then, but those are my initial thoughts.
Yeah, very good point. Of all of these conversations about whether it's a good thing, whether it's a bad thing, whether it's fair or not, like Disney's pretty notorious for their technology failing on you. So can you imagine the riots that will happen if people are paying a lot of money for this service and then they can't even get it to work on their phone?
Well, that's my thought. Do you get your money back? if it's a rise and it's towards the end of the day that you use that and it breaks down, and then it's like Eric had told this story one time. Eric Morton said that he went on Rise at the end of the day and it shut down, and they said, sorry, park's closing. Do I get my $15 or whatever I'm paying? I think that's going to be a little bit of a debacle.
And even if you do, like, how much of a chore is it going to be for you? Like, are you going to have to go wait in line at guest relations to get that? You know, like, it definitely seems, yeah. It's going to wind up causing people more stress. It's going to wind up really taxing the guest relations infrastructure, which has, in fairness, gotten better. Those guest relation kiosks throughout the park are fantastic, but you're going to wind up with, lines 10, 12 people deep at every single one of them, because they're all either going to be trying to figure out how to use it, they're going to have a problem with it, or they're going to have a complaint because something like that happened and they want to try to get their money back. Should be interesting.
And how many people are going to show up not understanding that they have to pay for it and are irate?
Probably most of them.
I mean, that's, yeah.
All right. Well, let's get your take on it next, then, Amy.
So, I don't know that I necessarily have a. That I don't think is my big issue, though I think it's a bummer, and I do that there ought to be some discipline and whatnot. So I'm not sure I agree 100% with the way that they're rolling this out, but my big issue is that you can't plan ahead, and that's great for people like my significant other who do not want to plan ahead and want to change their plans at a moment's notice. But he also is not going to get up at 7 a.m. on vacation and try to get fast passes or lightning lane or whatever they're calling it now. I mean, you're on vacation and you have to get up at 7 a.m. to ensure that you have rides to go on later in the day. And that's weird. That's weird. Yet I can't plan. So the way I like to do my vacation at Disney is to plan when the windows open for dining and for what used to be fast passes, and then work everything else around it. And without that, I'm going to feel so much anxiety for not having a plan. Like getting on a plane without any plan and going to Disney without having any idea what I'm going to do. I am not a person that likes that level of flexibility. That is going to make my eye twitch. Like that's not like, so when they say it gives people more flexibility, I think that's great for people who want that. But now there's no option for people who don't want that. And there are plenty of people who've been for years using spreadsheets and, touring plans or whatever it is they use to like come up with their crazy formula. And we're all a little nuts. And it's very, it's a certain type of person that does that. But there's a lot of us that do that. And I think that they're not taking into account that there are people that prefer to do things that way.
Well, and to that
and again, I don't know that I have a huge problem with paying for access. I'll pay for access, but let me do it ahead of time.
Yeah, that's a really interesting point, and I don't think an argument that I've personally heard about this is like it's not about the paying; it's about the lack of ability to plan things ahead. And like I know like that whole idea of waking up at 7, so like it's basically everything now is just like a Rise boarding group. And for me personally, like especially being down here when I have family, like my mom was just here visiting, and we planned a studios day on Sunday, I guess it was, and I am the one. I for whatever reason have really good boarding group luck. So whenever there's a bunch of people going to the parks, whenever I have family and friends in town, I am the one responsible for making sure we get boarding groups. And I have two alarms set on my phone, 6:56 and 6:58. The first one is so I'm awake, and the second one is like, okay, get your act together. It's time to do this. And but the problem is I sleep terribly the night before because I feel like my like everyone else's enjoyment is riding on me, which is a very stressful situation for me. If it were just about me getting a boarding group, it would be fine. But because it's about like other people depending on me, I get super stressed. There was one time I had some friends, like there were 6 of us going, and it was my job to get the boarding groups, and I literally had a nightmare about not getting a boarding group. Like I have dreams about I overslept past
sad.
7 and I didn't. It's like, right? And it's stupid, right? Like I know this is me like way overthinking and like putting way too much weight on how important it is to get a boarding group. But this is what happens to me. And so I can't fathom what that would be like for every day of your vacation. Like just the anxiety level of like, okay, I need to get on there and I need to plan everything. And like, what if I plan something wrong? And what if I plan something that other people don't want to do? Like, and having to do it at 7 o'clock in the morning when like I'm not a morning person. Just the idea of that makes me super like, yes, eye twitchy, like without even having experienced it yet. I just know it's going to be something that I'm going to hate that experience. Anyway, that is how I feel about the 7 a.m.
Part of the fun for me of going to Disney is planning the trip to Disney. So like you'll get, whatever fast passes you get and whatever dining you get, but then you have the ones you really want and you keep going in and checking every day to see if you could switch things around. And then when you can get that one thing you were trying to get, you have to switch everything else around. And it's like this puzzle that you're putting together. And so it's sort of like the hobby for 3 months before your vacation is preparing for the vacation. And I feel like all that is just gone now.
If I had $1 for every time I like went in playing like MDX dining reservation roulette, like, am I going to be able to get it? And then it's like, you get one that's like, you think is better, but like, is it better? And then you get that screen that's like, do you want to take this new one and cancel the old one? And you're like, shit, it's like, should I fold or should I bet? But I love that. Like that part's fun to me.
Yeah.
Or if you have a large group and you split your group and you're able to get within 5-minute window of the dining time.
Yes, we've done that.
Yeah.
That's magic. If you can get like 2 groups right together so you can both eat in the same restaurant at the same time. All right. So
I totally
Stephanie.
agree with Amy though. I totally agree with Amy. I mean, I am a planner. I enjoyed getting up at 6. I enjoyed the 6-month mark for the dining. I wish that they would push it back to 6 months because at 2 months, it's been harder to get the ones that I wanted or at the times that I need. But I agree with her. I think there has to be, and I've been watching a lot of different YouTube videos on this and people's opinions. And according to the travel agent world, they're saying that it's probably going to be where you can buy it for your whole length of stay. So hopefully maybe at that 2-month mark, they'll be able to say, would you like to purchase this like your memory maker? And you maybe get a discount or something like that, throwing that out there, Disney. So that would be great. I think that really what it comes down to is it would not have cost so much anger in the, Disney blogosphere if they had just moved Max Pass from Disneyland to Disney World. If they had just done that and kept Fast Pass the way it was, to where you can get 3 ahead of time, you could continue to get 1 at a time thereafter, and maybe even at different parks, that would have been nice, because people still park hop. But if they had just moved Max Pass to where every single ride was included in Max Pass, like Universal's Express Pass, I think that they would have garnered so much less animosity, really, amongst everyone because of this lightning lane that's an upcharge on an upcharge because you have to pay for the Genie Plus, or I guess you could just do lightning lane individually, but that's where it gets catchy, because it can be $20 a ride per person, depending on when do you go, in July, or do you go in February, do you go in January, that kind of thing. And so it's kind of, and then I have also heard that it was for Fast Pass, some people didn't like it because for every one person that would go in the regular line, they let through, it would be 10 people in Fast Pass. So they're saying, well, how many people are going to be paying, for this lightning lane experience, and then we're still going to be waiting in the standby.
It's
And
gonna be the same.
yeah,
I can't
or
see how they're
worse,
gonna not do it. Yeah.
Yeah. Like,
there's the question,
for
right?
every
Yeah, like I
5 to
think
1.
they'll let more people in because they're paying for it, whereas before they were letting people in, it was free. However, I think before it used to be everybody had fast passes, and now it will only be a percentage, and it could be, I mean, that's the question though, what's the percentage of people that are paying for it? Is it, and then it gets to a point where if it's like, if we're talking 75% plus of people are paying for Genie, then like it's meaningless, right? Like it's no different than standby if everybody's, either way, everybody's in the same boat.
I
Well,
do
the
kind of
one thing
wonder
I'm
if
looking
it.
forward to, I just wanted to
sorry.
add one quick positive note. I mean, if Jeannie can show me where the shortest line is at the moment for a pretzel cart, or a pretzel cart that's open, because during COVID, I traversed to like 3 pretzel carts. And yeah, so, I'm looking forward to that. If I say this
I
is
feel
what I
like pretzel
like
cart
and I want
lines
it.
are a little beyond what they have the technology to put into Genie. But here's hoping.
A girl can.
I'm actually surprised. I'm actually surprised, Shannon, that you said that you were kind of questioning if you're going to do it or not, because like you and I were talking about a few weeks ago, and I said, there was that article that came out about who Disney thinks is going into the park just based off of data. It's people, it's people who are married, have nice income jobs, and they don't have children, and they live over 100 miles away from the park, and that's like the majority of people who are going and spending a lot of money, and so who they're catering to with this thing. I think you said if you're not going but once or twice a year, pay the money.
I think because it makes me think, like, the money is right there in my face, and when I see $15 to do this, I'm like, no, that's ridiculous. Like, I'm not going to do it. But then Disney was a genius at building in these free, perks, experiences, Magical Express, even the luggage service, that was crazy. Transportation from your resort to the parks. How many of these things we think in our head is free? Meanwhile, you're paying $800 a night to stay at the Polynesian, which is not the Ritz-Carlton. So, that's what bothers me. And and yes, I think and again, I do go back and forth. Sometimes I'm like, maybe in that moment I will pull the trigger and be like, what's $10? But I think for the most part, I'm like, no, this is ridiculous.
Yeah, I think in the question of like, will I pay for it or not? I think there will be times where I have friends from out of town who are only here for a couple days and they want to make sure they get to do all the rides, and I will bite the bullet with them and buy it. The thing that I think really ticks me off about the cost thing is, it's like you said, if they had just moved Max Pass over here, I think everyone would, because like we've been talking for years about how we wish we had Max Pass. And like, I don't understand how Disney didn't figure that out and decide that's what they should do. And they could, like, that's such a huge chunk of what this is. And that would have been such a palatable way to serve it up to us is, you've been asking for years for Max Pass in Walt Disney World. Here it is. $15. Here it is. With the caveat that a couple of rides are not included. Because like, I get, like, you can't put Mine Train on there. You can't put Flight of Passage on there. You certainly can't put Rise on there. But at the same time, that's the frustration, right? Is that like you are paying for extra, but it doesn't give you everything. But then like, okay, look at it compared to Universal. Universal is so much more for basically the same thing. And that even still doesn't include every ride. Initially, I feel like it still doesn't include Velocicoaster, and it doesn't include Hagrid's. So they could compare it to that and say, okay, like, look, we're doing the same thing as Universal and we're actually charging you a whole lot less. But it's all of this added stuff around, it's the packaging of, we're basically going to direct you on your vacation. And here's the piece of it that to me is like it's the principle of the thing of why I won't buy it. It's not about spending money for Fast Pass, which, you know, most of this boils down to. It's the, we are treating you like you are too stupid to figure out how to do Disney by yourself. And that's the thing that makes me absolutely insane. And I think most people probably watching this show are people that have done Disney before and know what they want to do and don't need a stupid piece of garbage app telling them what they want. Like, that makes me crazy.
Well, and how wrong, Jill, how wrong is that app going to be? Like, that's just like, it's going to tell you, it's going to be Apple Maps when Apple Maps was sending people into lakes. Like, it's going to do that because every piece of Disney technology that's supposed to make things better maybe eventually gets there, but at least for the first 3, 6 months, year, 2 years, it's a disaster. And I can just see it sending people into things that just, or here's the other thing, like Waze, for example. How many times are you using Waze and it's telling you to go some weird way and you're like, no, I'm not doing that. That's ridiculous. So you go the way that you want to go and you get there 10 minutes earlier than the original ETA time because Waze is trying to manage traffic in a way that may not be more convenient for you, but is more convenient for the world as a whole. So
right. I don't care about what's more convenient for everyone in Disney, just me.
No, I want to get to where I'm going 10 minutes earlier than what you say, so I'm going to go my way that I know works. And it does this to me every time I'm going from one point A to the same point B. It's always telling me to go some weird way, and I'm just never do it. And I've always gotten there earlier. So I can really see the genie thing trying to anticipate a crowd somewhere where a crowd doesn't exist and putting everybody into a bigger crowd because that day everybody decided to go right instead of left.
Right. And there's some social engineering here too, right? Like Disney knows that they have a bunch of attractions that nobody goes on. And so rather than build us new attractions that people want, we're going to use this as a way to basically trick people who don't know any better into going onto subpar attractions instead of, because you put it in front of, if it flashes up on your phone that, hey, this ride, you don't know what this ride is, but it's only a 5-minute wait and this other ride over here is 45 minutes. Well, of course it's going to drive people to go to the 5-minute wait ride. And then they're going to come off it and be like, oh, that was kind of lame. Like, Disney's basically going to mediocritize what people think of their attractions because they're going to drive them to try to balance out crowd flow. And it's the lazy way of trying to get more people on rides instead of just giving people rides they want.
I think if they were really smart,
they've never been good at that.
No.
Yeah.
I think if they were really smart, they would see that Shannon really likes to buy the cheddar popcorn from the confectionery. And as I'm walking down Main Street, I'm going to get a notification that says, Shannon, remember to buy that bag of popcorn, and be like, you're right. I'm going to go do it.
See, that's what it should do, though. That's what it should do. I don't think it's going to do that because and we've talked about this so many times that they don't track exactly what you buy, even though they could do that.
Especially APs, they absolutely could.
If Disney were smart and had tracked everything I bought as an AP all of these years, it could do what Shannon just said and direct her towards the things she's going to like Amazon does when I log on to Amazon. But Disney doesn't do that. So it's going to be this weird random thing.
Well, speaking of
sorry, I interrupted.
You're going to have this this algorithm that they put out that says, you know, on average, it's much more longer wait time for a Peter Pan in the morning than it is at 3 p.m. or this kind of thing. But remember, this is Florida, and there's usually a rainstorm around 3 to 4 o'clock in the afternoon every day. And depending on how hard that rain is, they sometimes shut down rides. They'll shut down the Carousel of Progress. They'll shut down Mickey's PhilharMagic, and they'll just make people wait inside. So if you're in inside, you're pretty much stuck inside. So are they going to put that on the app too? Like, go here and then wait for another hour or something.
Go to Test Track. Oh, but wait, it's when there's always a lightning storm and they always shut down Test Track.
Exactly.
We're just going to be a bunch of lab mice going all around.
But here's the thing, I wish we were legit lab mice. Like, the thing I wish they would just give us is do away with all this stuff and give us like your grocery store key tag, you know, so you can scan what I buy every day. And maybe you'll actually give me merchandise that isn't crap. You know what I mean? Like, maybe you'll actually tell me where to go get the popcorn I want instead of like trying to force me into stuff I don't want. Because and here's what Disney does wrong, and it's what they're doing grossly wrong with this app. It's what they've been doing wrong, is Disney doesn't listen to the customer. Disney tries to say, we are smarter than the customer. We know what you want. You just don't know it yet. So we're going to force you into wanting the thing we know you really want. Instead of realizing that, oh, wait, if we were a good company, a smart company, a company that actually like knew how to utilize data and knew how to utilize customer feedback, we could create an experience where you would spend twice as much money and you would be happy about it, instead of us trying to have to sucker and drive you into spending money on stuff that you don't really want. And then you're going to go home and be like, it was really expensive. And at the end of the day, it was just kind of okay.
Very good point.
There's my different rant.
Like for us, I feel like they could have tracked all of our Christmas ornament purchases and this like castle thing that Colin had to buy. Like, and so like when there is something, like they could pop up and say, you know, we know that you bought this skating Mickey and Minnie. We have a skating,
and guess what? You're
Daisy and
past
Donald
a store where we sell something just like it. Why don't you pop into the Emporium and go pick up this thing that's like, you know, a different version of the one you already have?
And we all know they know exactly where we are, because they know when you're on the Haunted Mansion and your name comes up, like, you know my every step in that park. Yeah.
RFID.
Yeah. But they don't track the purchases.
Yeah.
That's what's weird. And I don't know why.
It's not weird, it's stupid. It's just plain dumb.
It is stupid. I've had this conversation like I think every show I've been on, you know, whether it's Jill or Jason, it's just we're baffled by the fact that but this is 101. Like, why?
Yeah, like literally, like mom and pop grocery
I'm actually
stores
telling them, track me.
And Disney hasn't.
Track me, Disney. Track me. Like,
if you were actually giving me what I wanted, I'd be okay.
It does add to the customer experience for them to identify your likes and dislikes and what you're willing to spend money on and what you're not. It does. And I don't like the idea of being tracked, but you know what? It's happening everywhere else, so they may as well just do it.
Yeah. And like they're halfway doing it, right? It's not like they're not doing it. They're just not doing it in a way that benefits the customer.
Or them. Well, it could benefit them more.
Yeah. We have been ranting for a little while about this, and I know that's, topic du jour. But I will go around the horn and give everybody one last sort of opportunity to chime in with their GD thoughts. Also, I don't know if you heard the thunder and lightning outside, but there's slight chance that my power may go out and the show will end anyway. Oh, no. Because it's Florida and it's August and thunderstorms happen here. But all right, we'll start with Shannon. Your closing thoughts on Genie and how you feel about how it's going to affect your park going.
I really feel like this is a sit and wait and see what happens. You know, I think things are going to drastically change. Yes, I am slightly hopeful that there are going to be some positive things about this. I hope that Disney can prove us all wrong in certain aspects, and especially in terms of executing on this technology. Please, I feel like they've heard our cries with other things, that they can get it right this time. So that's basically all I have to say about it. You know, skeptical, but hopeful.
That's as good as we can hope. How about you, Stephanie?
Mhm.
I think you're right. I think the jury's still out. I think we have to wait and see. But I do think that people will pay for convenience, like I said earlier, and I bet there will be more people that will, protest, but then they will shell out the money. Especially those that, like you said, Shannon, it just depends on what kind of trip you're doing. Are you doing a quick trip where you want to make sure you max out everything and you want to get as much, experience that you can with the rides and whatnot. And then, or are you going for a leisurely week and you can take your time and wait in line? So I think it just really depends. But I will say this as a quick tip, don't burn the candle at both ends. I also, as many people have said tonight, hate the 7 a.m. I actually preferred to get up at 5 on the one day I was going to try to get a Rise boarding group and get it to the park early. But I hate that every morning or whatever, I have the park pass, waking up at 7 a.m. and trying to get those boarding groups. And I have yet to
Mhm.
be able to get one. I have yet to be able to get one for 6 people.
Oh
I know.
no.
We were able to get, and it's hard to tell your son, oh, I'm sorry, you can't ride this. We'll try again at 2 o'clock. But yes, I think that if they can, somehow get that to where it's park hopping might come back earlier. And so you can go earlier instead of 2 p.m. every day.
Oh,
Park hop, maybe you can
Yeah,
park
that
hop
needs to
earlier
come
during the
back.
day. I think
agree.
that needs to come back. And also, if you're going to stay up and do fireworks the night before, don't get up and do an 8 a.m. breakfast the next morning, like sleep in.
How about you, Amy?
So I hope they prove us wrong, but with the history of Disney and technology, I'm not counting on that. And I think the biggest thing for me is not the cost of it, but the lack of being able to plan. And I'm going to miss the planning and just thinking about not having every day at least roughly planned out, with anchor things that you're going to do, getting on a plane gives me a lot of anxiety, and I'm not even sure how I feel about that. So I hope they introduce something where you can do this early. Like, and again, I don't want to say this out loud, but I'm going to say it out loud. And I don't want to say it out loud because I don't want them to say, okay, it's $500 for that service, because I know that they'll do that. But if there's an upcharge to be able to plan 3 months ahead, okay, if it's reasonable, I think I could buy into that. But they should offer a discount for APs to be able to do that.
Mhm.
That's just
Ooh,
my two
good
cents.
point.
So I don't know. This gives me a lot of anxiety because I don't like this not being able to plan. Type A personality. It's going to drive me nuts.
Yeah. So my big concern is, yeah, it's being an AP, it's being a local, because I'm obviously not going to pay for this every day that I go to the parks. And most of the people that I know and go to the parks with are in the same boat. We don't go to the parks to do every ride in the park. We go, we do a couple rides here and there, we walk around, we have a snack, we have a drink, we hang out. But like, I don't want this, and that's fine. Like, I don't have a problem doing standby at all. Like I've said before on shows, I wish they didn't bring Fast Pass back at all, because I think it's been this great equalizer of like everybody's in the same boat, and at least there's only one line feeding into an attraction instead of two. But I'm worried that the one or two rides I want to go on when I go to the park in a given day, I'm going to have to wait 2 hours now because everybody with Genie and Lightning Lane is going to be like feeding into the ride, and I'm going to be standing there. It's going to be like rush hour traffic on I-4, that you just sit there for 20 minutes and you can't get anywhere because everybody's trying to go to Champions Gate. Like, that's what I worry about, is that it's going to ruin the AP experience, and they're already going to wind up jacking up AP prices when they bring them back. And they've just, we are definitely a group, I feel like, that's going to suffer as a result of this, because they're so focused on the experience for that family that only comes once every few years. And that's fine. I don't begrudge you giving them stuff, but I do begrudge you giving them stuff when it comes at a cost of I'm losing something. And I'm the one who's in your parks all the time spending a lot of money. So and that goes back to the tracking and all of that. But I don't know. We don't know how it's going to wind up playing out. Hopefully it winds up, actually, hopefully they listen to the feedback they've gotten. The Disney Parks blog post on this has like 150 negative comments. So hopefully they take that into consideration when before they roll this out. Yeah. They patrol that.
Those are the best ones.
It's bad when 100+ people are posting negative stuff on the park blog, right? Because that's not what normally happens.
Those are only the ones you can see. How many did they take down?
Yeah. It's crazy. But anyway, so we shall see, and I'm sure we will reconvene another panel on all of this when Genie finally debuts and we see just how crazy, or, fingers crossed, maybe it's not that bad, and maybe we're all pleasantly surprised, and it either enhances our experience, or I will honestly just take it does not, take away from my experience. That's best case scenario for me, is that I can still go have a good time in the parks without having to spend extra money. Because I already spend a lot of money in the parks, Disney. You already have a lot of my money. Stop taking more. Anyway, but with that, we will bid you all good night. Thank you, everyone, for joining us here tonight. It's been a fun conversation. I liked that we got to have a little chat about kind of what we love about the parks and how we do the parks in our daily sort of personal life. But then we also get to talk, the ranty current news topic of what is going on with Genie and how we all feel about it. So thank you so much to my panel. Thank you, Shannon. Thank you, Amy. Thank you, Stephanie, for joining me tonight. Much obliged. Thank you, all our viewers out there who are watching. By all means, please be sharing your thoughts either in the chat or in the comments. We'd love to hear what you have to say. And with that, we will bid you good night, and we will see you again in 2 weeks for the next episode of Ink and Paint. Good night, everybody.
Good night.